There's no doubt that so many of us love growing food. It's one of the key reasons that we garden. But one of the big questions that we all ask is how safe is my soil? And how do I find out? Professor Mark Taylor and Hannah Elliott are from Victoria's Environment Protection Authority, which is running the GardenSafe program to help gardeners understand the state of their soil. Tell me, Mark, what is it that people will find in their soil?
Well, organic matter and worms, but also trace elements. And remember the periodic table from high school? We focus on those elements that are associated with industrial pollution that are commonly found in cities. Arsenic, copper, cadmium, zinc, lead, manganese, for example. And we're concerned because there are potentially neurotoxic risks. They get into the soil, they then can get into the food, the soil can get inside people's homes. In the last 200 years or so, we've done a really good job in certain parts of the environment of contaminating them. So we just need to be cognizant that if we want to use the gardens for food production, let's find out what's there. The main risk that we find is lead, particularly in the older parts of the city. If you live in an old home closer to the city centre, which is made of timber and painted, it's more likely than not that that home will be subject to more contaminated soil than a newer home and the fringes.
So that's about lead paint, which was used on houses.
And in vehicles, so...
Right, leaded fuel.
Leaded petrol, which we had for 7 decades.
So how does it get in the soil?
Well, it comes out the tailpipe. Those emissions, they become depositions because they're particles. They fall out, they land on the soil, and it accumulates over time.
So it won't go anywhere?
No, unless you dig it up and take it to an appropriate waste facility.
Right. And why is lead so dangerous?
Well, lead is a classic neurotoxin, and what that does, it interferes with people's neurological development, and exposures over lifetime associated with poorer outcomes, socioeconomic outcomes, and early onset of dementia. Children are most impacted because their neurological and skeletal systems are developing, so that's the time of life when we try to minimise exposure, and that's why we need to be cognizant of what's in the garden.
Gosh, it's such an abundant front garden.
Isn't this a beautiful mulberry tree?
It's gorgeous. And so a garden like this, you know, is it worth testing?
Absolutely. You never know what was going on in your yard before you lived there. So
right.
You know, everything's worth taking a look at, get a bit of a pulse check of what's going on. So this will take an X-ray of your soil and tell us a bit about what's going on in there. So you can see potassium and phosphorus at the top. So they're beneficial for human and plant health. So we'd expect to see them in your soil. Lead's coming up at 9, which is fairly low. So that's in milligrams per kilograms of soil. Now the limit's at 300. So 9's pretty good. We'd say carry on gardening.
That is such an amazing result, and so quickly. But obviously not everyone can get the machine delivered to the house. How do people get their soil tested with you?
Send it to us and we'll do it for you.
So can you show me how to get a sample?
Yeah, let's go collect some soil. So if there's a certain area of your backyard or front yard that you're interacting with a lot, or your kids are playing in, and you're interested in that, then let's sample that, and we can tell you what's going on in there. 15 by 15 centimetre square is what we recommend, and then taking the top 2 centimetres, so the soil that you're really interacting with, that top layer.
How much am I after?
More, we say a tennis ball, about half a cup.
Okay.
Yeah, that's great. Seal it up, send your 3 samples into us, and we'll screen them and send your report back for free.
Victoria's GardenSafe program gives people a report on any pollutants in their soil and a free soil analysis that includes nutrient levels and physical properties like amounts of sand and clay.
Hi Tess. So this is where the action happens, Millie. These are soil samples that have come in from all over Victoria.
Gardeners in other states can pay a small donation to use the VeggieSafe soil testing program at Macquarie University.
So we'll grab this one. This one's from Inner Melbourne. Just a small sample of the soil. So it's about 2 teaspoons that we actually take. So Millie, let's take a look at the results that have just come through. That lead's really high.
Oh wow, that is high. So that's over 1,000 milligrams per kilogram of soil.
Correct. So that's quite high. The limit's 300, and that's about over three times the limit of what we'd say is safe.
I really feel for that gardener. Like, if I got that result, I think my heart would break a bit. You wouldn't recommend gardening in it?
We wouldn't. We'd recommend taking steps to reduce your exposure to that soil.
The information is then de-identified and added to the Map My Environment website.
So if we zoom in on Melbourne, you can see the spikes there, where you can see there's higher lead concentrations in those inner north and west suburbs.
So where the industrial activity was, that's where you're going to find
lots
more
of
contamination.
Lots of legacy contamination. Yeah.
Wow, so everyone can contribute to this.
Absolutely, it's a great example of citizen science and getting Victorians to really contribute to the scientific efforts of the EPA.
As well as testing your soil for free, the program also gives Victorians clear information about practical steps they can take to reduce the risks posed by contaminated soil. Mark, this is a great example of one of the best solutions.
Raised bed,
Yep.
fresh soil, you know, mulch on the top, it's perfect. It stops dust being produced.
Right.
It's obviously producing great food.
And so what are other things you can do to minimise your risk?
Well, the most obvious one is when you get the veggies from the garden, you make sure you wash it properly, you wash your hands, and when you go in the house, you take your shoes off. You just reduce that risk of exposure from the soil, and it's just good basic hygiene, right? It's nothing complicated.
Gardeners are also advised to avoid planting vegetables near the drip line or eaves of older houses, and to mulch open soil to reduce the dust. If you've got chooks, make sure they're nesting and scratching in a deep bed of clean litter. And if you've got kids, create a safe play area, such as a sandpit with clean sand. There's such a variety of productive plants in this garden. Do different things take up those elements in different ways?
Yes, they do. And the plants that we should be most concerned about are the leafy greens, such as the spinaches we can see here. These are well known to be susceptible to the uptake of lead, whereas other plants, such as your fruit trees, for example, are not affected in the same way. So growing it in a raised bed with mulch to limit the production of dust is perfect.
So they're big issues and they worry us, but we don't need to panic. We can keep gardening.
We can carry on gardening and by taking sensible, simple actions to mitigate that risk. My view is every little bit counts. Little things matter. So the cumulative benefit of everybody taking pragmatic and sensible action so that they can maximise the use of their garden, there's huge benefits for the population.